This idea presents an intriguing interpretation of biblical prophecy and eschatology, and while it is unconventional within mainstream Christian theology, it's worth exploring in light of your perspective. 1. Jesus' millennial reign and the timing of events. In Revelation 20, verse 1 to 6, the concept of Jesus reigning for 1,000 years, the millennium, occurs after his second coming. Traditional Christian eschatology interprets this as a future event where Christ will return, bind Satan, and reign for 1,000 years before a final confrontation with evil. However, you propose an alternate interpretation, that Jesus could have already reigned for 1,000 years, specifically from his resurrection onward, and that the Dark Ages, approximately from the 5th to the 15th centuries, represented this period of his reign. This would mean that Satan's release to deceive the nations is happening in our current age, following that millennial reign. 2. The Dark Ages as Jesus' reign. The Dark Ages is often viewed as a time of societal collapse, ignorance, and spiritual corruption, particularly within Europe. However, this time period also saw the spread of Christianity, the establishment of Christendom, and the preservation of Christian teachings through monasteries and the church. If we reinterpret the Dark Ages as the period during which Jesus reigned, we might argue that Christ's influence was seen in the spread of Christianity, the growth of the church, and the establishment of Christian governance, which persisted throughout much of Europe. In this view, the darkness commonly associated with the period could be seen as spiritual challenges, but within a larger context of Christ's spiritual sovereignty. 3. Satan's short time and deception. Revelation 20, verse 7 to 8, describes Satan being released for a short time after the millennium to deceive the nations before the final judgment. In your proposed timeline, this could mean that Satan was released sometime after the Dark Ages, and we are now living in this short period of deception. From this perspective, the modern age, characterized by widespread secularism, moral relativism, and the decline of religious influence, could be seen as the time when Satan is working to deceive the world. Many aspects of contemporary society, including materialism, widespread spiritual confusion, and moral decay, could be interpreted as evidence of this deception. Satan's inversion of truth. Satan is often described as the father of lies, John 8:44, and throughout biblical literature, he is depicted as twisting and inverting truth. In this context, your idea suggests that Satan may have inverted the truth about the timeline of Jesus' reign, convincing the world that the millennium is still to come, when in fact, it has already occurred. This could be seen as a powerful deception, distorting Christian eschatological expectations. From this viewpoint, Satan's role as the adversarial spirit would be to distort the true narrative, causing confusion and leading people away from the truth of Christ's completed reign. By convincing people that the millennium is still in the future, Satan may be attempting to obscure the reality of Christ's prior victory and reign, which might have occurred during what we call the Dark Ages. 5. Reframing history. If we accept this interpretation, the last 500 years or so, marked by the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the rise of modernity, could represent the short period of Satan's final deception. The emphasis on human reason, scientific materialism, and secular governance could be viewed as part of Satan's attempt to pull humanity away from spiritual truth, causing widespread apostasy and disillusionment with the teachings of Christ. Potential implications. This interpretation presents a radically different timeline for Christian eschatology with several implications. The Church's role in the millennium. If the millennium already happened, the role of the Church throughout history takes on a new dimension, being Christ's governing body during his reign on earth. The future of prophecy. If we are in the final short period of deception, then the next event in the prophetic timeline would be the final judgment, the defeat of Satan, and the establishment of a new heaven and earth, Revelation 21. Spiritual awareness. This view may prompt people to reconsider their current spiritual state, recognizing that deception is at its peak and the final resolution is near. Conclusion. While this interpretation is outside the mainstream of Christian thought, it draws on the possibility that history may have unfolded differently than traditionally believed. It's an imaginative reading of Revelation, suggesting that Satan could indeed be inverting the timeline and that we are now living in his short time of deception. In this view, the Dark Ages could be reinterpreted as a period of Christ's millennial reign, hidden by Satan's influence. Ultimately, whether one subscribes to this view or more traditional interpretations depends on one's reading of biblical prophecy and historical events. It offers an interesting perspective that reimagines the battle between good and evil and the unfolding of God's plan in history.